Everyone, thank you guys for coming here on this lecture. I hope that after this lecture you'll actually have like some new technique in your repository. So I hope that we have the red teamers and blue team analysts here. This is our latest research, the hide and seek in Windows Closet, unmasking the Windows side-by-side hijacking hideout. So it's going to be a 35-40 minutes long presentation, so I'm trying to be concise as possible. On the agenda, we have the brief introduction, what is our goal for today, what is actually the Windows side-by-side folder, how it works, what is the DLL Search Order Hijacking, what is the search order inside that, the search order hijacking, what groups actually have previously abused the search order hijacking method, what is the WinSxS, actually that's our method, how it works. We'll check the flow or like the background of our method. Then we'll see execution of it and we'll see some results. I have also added some just for fun slides and some executables that we'll also check. I'll show you where you can see more research resources that we have done. We'll have like a short demo. We'll try to get the reverse shell. It's pre-recorded demo. And for the blue team analysts, we'll check how to actually, what are the detection opportunities that blue team analysts can use and in like their SOC or MDR teams. And we'll try to dig in all of that. And in the end, we'll have the question section. You can guys come to me and we can talk about it. So who am I? As you can see, I have mentioned the Luka Modric and Baby Lasagna since recent Eurovision was popular. So you probably heard about both of these guys. They are both from Croatia as I am. How I started actually this journey of hacking. So when I was young, I actually discovered something called Kali Linux, and I wanted to be like a cool hacker like everyone else in the movies, but obviously it was a scam that just by like punching on the keyboard you'll hack something or something like that. I started actually as the part of the Security Operations Center in Croatia. Actually, it was the first Security Operations Center in Croatia that was covering security incidents 24/7. Then I started going to the fields, like to our clients, and we started collecting the artifacts by hand. We were creating timelines and more stuff like that. Like it was more manual work than using the XDRs and the newer stuff, because in Croatia there is no much clients or much of the companies that actually have XDRs, EDRs, or even the security monitoring teams. And my current position is the threat researcher in the really cool company called Security Joes. I'm, let's say, new here, but I'm willing to stay here for a long time. It's a really cool company. It's really good. It's a really supportive team. So let's see what is actually our goal for today. So everybody watched a lot of American movies here, and when you see this guy approaching, you know that it's something related to stealth. So we are trying to show you the new technique for red teamers and describe how actually you can hide from the SOC analysts, from the MDR teams, and how you can work on your stealthness in your next engagements. So I know if you are the red teamer, you'll get like the local user on some, let's say, infected network, and you'll have to work your way through it to get to the domain controller, to be the admin, and stuff like that. So this is going to be one of the methods that you can use to hide from the SOC teams, to hide from the MDR teams, and especially the SOCs that have too many junior position people there, and the SOCs that are collecting so much evidence that some data is just being like automatically classified as the false positive. So what is actually the Windows side-by-side? It's actually a folder that is crucial for your system to work and operate normally. It stores necessary files and libraries to support like multiple software versions. And basically, you'll need it for your system to operate normally. It can get really large because it collects all of the software versions and their needed libraries, and it supports them in working normally later on. Even when the software is outdated, the binaries will reach out to the Windows side-by-side folder and search for the library they need to operate normally. As you can see, you can find it in the location of C drive, Windows, and the Windows side-by-side folder. As said before, the folder can get like pretty large, so there are tools like disk cleanup that are like managing the size of that folder. So DLL Search Order Hijacking, what is it and how actually it works? So it works by placing a malicious DLL in path prior to legitimate one. It's an old method used widely, nothing new there. It exploits Windows DLL loading sequence. We'll see what actually is that load sequence, why is it important, and how it actually works. And enables threat actor to inject crafted files without exploiting direct upflows, which means that you don't need some special vulnerability, you don't need some special tools or the application flows to exist even. You just have to find the good path to put your binary on. So we'll see what actually is the search order of the in this method used, because Windows has its own search order, how it searches for the files that it needs. So once you execute the binary, it will first search into the director, from the directory where that application is launched. In this case, it's going to be the Windows side-by-side folder. Then it's going to look into the C Windows System 32, then C Windows System, C Windows, the current working directory. This one is actually going to be important for us. System's path environment variable and user's path environment variable. As I said, this one is going to be the most important one for us. In our demo, we called it not a system folder MS, and yes, MS stands for Microsoft. Before I heard colleagues talking about Microsoft not assigning their vulnerability as the security vulnerability, so this was the same case basically. And you'll decide later on, is it actually the vulnerability or not. So before we start with the method, let's see which APT groups actually use the DLL Search Order Hijacking. So you have the APT41, which is the Chinese group Double Dragon. They used it a lot of times, like basically in everyday scenario where you can find them. They use it to execute the malicious payloads such as the Rat. It was like their signature move. You have the aquatic panda there also. They abused that method, used it in each of their engagements basically. They did not care. They use it to deploy to load the binary files, library files, dot files, basically whatever you can imagine. RTM group has used the search order hijacking to force TeamViewer to load their malicious DLL. If you search for the RTM group and the TeamViewer vulnerabilities, you'll see that TeamViewer vulnerability prior to 5.0 is actually one of the most abused stuff around TeamViewer. And Whitefly has used the search order hijacking to run their loader. Whitefly is actually the cyber espionage group, so it's not weird for them to try to be stealth as possible. So they used the DLL search order hijacking to hide from the analysts and the other teams. WinSxS is actually our method. We used the classic DLL search order hijacking, but we made it better. And why is it better? Because we don't need high privileges. As I said, you can be a red teamer and you get engagement, you come to the network, you assume that one endpoint is actually infected, breached, you get the local admin, and Like, there is no much that you can do. But this method does not require you to be admin or anything. Basically, you can use it as the standard user. Additional binaries, as said, you don't need some additional cool fancy binaries. You don't need any application flows. There is nothing specific that you need about binaries, vulnerabilities, anything like that. From which location actually can we execute or call all those binaries or the libraries that we want? Basically from anyone. So that's why you'll see further in the demo, we just created the directory on the folder and called it not-a-system folder ms, and we'll execute it from there. Works on recent Windows OS. Yeah, it works. It was reported to Microsoft. They did not consider it as a security vulnerability. It's not been patched, and it will not be patched in probably a long time. So if you are a red teamer here, you can try and use it like on your next engagement. You can set up the virtual machines, or if you are the blue teamer, you can go and try to recreate this method, maybe take a sysmon or something like that, see actually how it looks. Basically set up VM, test the method, and maybe use it yourself in the next engagements. So let's see the WinSxS flow. We have here a little cool guy named Researcher. So he creates the custom directory wherever he wants. So it's the not-a-system folder ms. We created it on the desktop. And we created some custom DLL files. So you can create whatever you want. We created our own just to create the proof of concept and to see and to prove that method actually works. You'll position yourself, you'll use PowerShell command prompt, whatever you want, position yourself inside the not-a-system folder ms or the however you want to call it directory. And you will call for the vulnerable binary. Let's call it vulnerable. For the proof of concept, we use the engine task.exe, but there are multiple other binaries that you can use there. Basically, it's going to be executed inside the Windows side-by-side folder, and then the search order comes into the place. And as we said, it goes by the launch directory, C Windows System 32, C Windows System, C Windows, current working directory, which is our directory that we created, system paths environment variable, user's path environment variable. Then the process loads our library inside of it, and it's executed. Basically, if you check it, you'll see later on, we'll check it, it seems like it's just the normal engine task.exe running. If you go use Process Explorer or something like that, you take hash, it's going to be a legitimate one. There is nothing like suspicious or malicious around it. So this method is actually really good if you are going up against some security operations center provider that has so much clients that that they have so many user positions or something like that. They get too much events, and the analysts just check the first look. They get the hash. They say it's all good, it's signed, and we can go on. So on the first look, there is nothing suspicious about it until you actually check the loaded DLL files. You'll see it also later on. When you check the loaded DLL files, you'll see it there. Also, I have posted this cool guy here. If you want to dig into the research and go into details, there is the cool blog post we created. You can find it on our web also. So let's see the part one and to get hands on how actually we did it. So you take process monitor and you use some filters. So you can see here operation is create file. Result is path not found. Result is name not found. And path contains not-a-system folder ms. And on the other picture you have our folder, our custom created library, and there is cool little tool that we called bin finder. It's just the tool we created for executing every single each binary inside the Windows side-by-side folder. So nothing special there. We just automated the process so that you don't have to go and click every single each binary inside Windows side-by-side folder. Once you get to the results in the process monitor, you'll see all the binaries that are here that are searching for some binary or some library inside our current working directory. So for example, you have the 4files.exe. You remember we previously mentioned the engine task.exe. Here is the 4files.exe, and it searches for cmd.exe. And if you look above, there is the conhost.exe. It searches for clipup.exe. So there is no just one binary. There are multiple binaries that you can abuse to use this method. You can basically then go to the properties and event properties and check the path and the command line, because you'll need that command line to call for the binary. You'll see it now. So you'll have in the Windows PowerShell, you'll have the command line that was actually shown here. Just copy the command line. You'll have it here in the PowerShell. And just paste it. It will load. Now you can see the mscore.svc.dll here. So the engine task.exe actually search for the mscore.svc.dll in our current working directory. And we renamed our DLL to match that name, and it gets pulled into the process. So what happens behind the scenes? As you can see, here is the Process Explorer. And when you check on first look, there is just basically the engine task.exe and PowerShell.exe running. You can come onto them, click on them. It's going to give you the valid file, signed file, legitimate hash. But when you dig into it, you'll see into the imported DLL section that there is the DLL named the mscore.svc.dll loaded from the not the system folder ms directory, which is our directory. And that's why this stuff gets often overlooked, and it just gets lost in many of the events in the SOC centers. So for fun, let me show you. There is the 4files.exe that was searching for the cmd.exe. So I just used the tool called Holmes Hunter. Holmes Hunter is a tool that you actually use to analyze running processes, and it will just throw you out the suspicious processes if they have some, I don't know, suspicious handles or something like that. Really cool tool. And I just basically renamed it, put it into our current working directory, and just execute it here. And actually it started working. When you check the Process Explorer, you will see again cmd.exe running, and that's it basically. 4 files called. So now in the position of the security analyst, maybe he just checks the 4 files. It's going to be a signed binary. So they'll maybe just assume false positive and go further. Research resources. So as I said, you have plenty of blog posts on our web. You can also check our LinkedIn, Twitter. There are like advisories, vulnerabilities, researchers that you can use and dig into the more of those researchers. And as I said, this one is there in detail. Also on the blog, you'll see more binaries that we extracted that are surely vulnerable that we checked on. So you can test on those binaries as well. So you don't have to click on every single one of each or create the custom binary to just run through the whole Windows side-by-side folder. So let's run through a demo. This demo is going to be about getting the reverse shell on the compromised host. So let me stop it. As mentioned, we placed our mscore.svc.dll in the same directory that we actually created. As said, you'll take basically the command line, copy paste it, and execute and call the engine task.exe there. As mentioned previously, you can see in Process Explorer, like when you are testing some stuff, use Process Explorer or Processman, whatever, and check what is actually happening behind. And one more trick would be to use the sysman and actually log off all of the events that are like happening around the execution. Let me stop it here. So as you can see, there is the netcat listener on the port 4444, and basically our shell was completed here. You can use reverse shell to like use some of your commands to check on it, and basically it also went undetected by the EDR or the AV tools. So method still works. It's still good for stealth. Most EDR tools, most vendors will not actually be able to catch up on this method. So it's up to your imagination how you can use it in your like next engagements, and just try to play around it and test it. So how do we compare from the standard method? So we don't need any high privileges. In the demo that you seen, there was no admin privileges or anything like that. Basically, you are the local user. You have some custom created DLL or whatever you want, and you can just execute it. There is nothing like going to stop you from that. No need for additional binaries or any additional flows. You don't need any specific vulnerability. You don't need to download any specific script, long script or something like that. You can just play around it and create simple DLL or the binary or whatever you want. Stealth, as said, the method is still undetectable. It's still, you can try it against the Microsoft Defender, for example. It will not catch it. You can play around with reverse shells or anything that you want. So as I said, it would be cool if you, after this presentation, that you'd actually go on to your next red team engagement and try to use this method. And if you're the blue team analyst, try to catch all of the events that are happening around this method. And that's where the detection opportunities come. So examine parent-child relationships, as seen in the Process Explorer. You'll not see much, but don't just give up on the first look, because real APT groups are trying to be stealth as possible, and if you just scratch the surface, you are not going to find many details there. Check for the unusual processes that invoke binaries from the Windows side-by-side folder. This is useful if you have like your custom set of rules, and if you have if you are providing SOC services, something like that. Check up on this method and see what would be your triggers to catch up on this activity. So it would be a cool rule to actually have as the SOC operations center. And check for the legitimate binaries in the Windows side-by-side folder, spawning unexpected child processes. So you would not expect engine task.txt running, I don't know, I don't have an idea, any other executable with weird name and stuff like that. So onto the behavior analysis, so it would be really weird if you find engine task.txt connecting to the C2 servers or connecting to internet at all, basically. So check for the remote connections or any connections from the Windows side-by-side folder. Windows binaries loading models from uncommon folders. This is our example where, like, if you were the security operations center, you could catch us up on this one, on this step also, because you'll see the call from the not a system folder MS directory that we are from there calling the binary that is placed inside the Windows side-by-side folder. And track access patterns to identify any anomalous file operations performed by Windows side-by-side binaries. As I said, take sysmon, take anything that you want. Try to see what happens around when this technique is used. Don't just focus on the binaries inside the Windows side-by-side folder. Focus on the artifacts that are also left when you execute this type of the method. That would be it. If there are any questions, shoot the questions. If not, if you are using the inventory platform, please go to the platform and rate my speech. This was my first speech on the conference, and I look further to the another ones. Thank you, guys.